Welcome back to the channel, and today we have something very exciting to show you. Most people see an old 2 pence coin and think it is only worth its face value. They toss it into a drawer, a coin jar, or a forgotten box without giving it a second thought. But what if some of those ordinary-looking coins are worth far more than most people realize? In this video, we are counting down 5 UK 2 pence coins that have captured the attention of collectors over the years. Some became valuable because of their age, some because of their condition, and others because of unusual varieties and collector demand. Along the way, you will learn what makes these coins special, what details to look for, and why certain examples can sell for surprisingly high amounts of money. Make sure you stay until the end, because our final coin has the biggest surprise of them all, and its value might shock you. Now, let's start with the first coin. The first coin in today's countdown is the 1971 UK 2 pence. And this coin has a story that reaches back to one of the biggest changes in modern British currency history. At first glance, a circulated 1971 2 pence may not seem like the kind of coin that would excite collectors. It looks simple, familiar, and in many cases shows years of wear from everyday use. However, experienced collectors understand that this particular date represents something much bigger than an ordinary coin. The year 1971 marked the introduction of decimal currency in the United Kingdom, a change that transformed how people counted and spent money. Because of that historic connection, the 1971 2 pence remains one of the most recognized and collected early decimal coins. Understand why this coin matters. It helps to picture Britain in 1971. For generations, people had used a currency system based on pounds, shillings, and pence. Then came Decimal Day, a moment that required millions of people to learn a completely new way of handling money. Shops had to update prices, banks had to prepare customers, and families across the country had to adjust to the new system. The 2 pence coin became part of daily life almost immediately. It passed through stores, markets, restaurants, and banks as the nation adapted to decimal currency. Every time someone received one of these coins in change, they were participating in a new chapter of British financial history. The design of the 1971 2 pence is both simple and meaningful. On the obverse, or front side, appears the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. During this period of her reign, her image appeared on coins throughout the United Kingdom and across many parts of the Commonwealth. For many collectors, coins featuring Queen Elizabeth II represent an important record of modern history because they span decades of social, political, and cultural change. The reverse side features the badge of the Prince of Wales, one of the most recognizable symbols used on British coinage. The design shows 3 feathers emerging from a coronet, with the words "New Pence" below. That wording is especially important because it identifies the coin as one of the early decimal issues. Later coins would use a different inscription, making these early pieces stand out to collectors. The coin itself was struck in bronze and has a substantial feel compared to many modern coins. It measures approximately 25.9 millimeters in diameter and weighs about 7.12 grams. When first released, the bronze surfaces displayed a bright appearance with strong detail throughout the design. However, the example we are discussing today is in circulated condition, which means it spent years being used in everyday transactions before eventually finding its way into a collection or coin jar. A circulated 1971 UK 2 pence often shows moderate wear across the highest points of the design. On the portrait side, some of the finer details in Queen Elizabeth II's hair may appear softer than they did when the coin left the mint. On the reverse, portions of the feathers and lettering may show signs of smoothing from years of handling. Small contact marks, scratches, and discoloration are also common. Many circulated examples develop darker brown surfaces over time, while others may display a mixture of lighter and darker tones depending on how they were stored and used throughout their lives. While some people see wear as a negative, many collectors view it differently. A circulated coin tells a story. Every mark and every worn detail represents years of movement through the economy. This particular coin may have been used to buy groceries, pay for transportation, or make everyday purchases during the early years of decimal currency. It may have traveled across cities and towns, passing through thousands of hands before ending up in someone's collection. That journey is part of what makes circulated coins interesting. One reason collectors continue searching for the 1971 UK 2 new pence is its place in British numismatic history. First-year issues often receive special attention because they represent the beginning of something important. In this case, the coin marks the start of the decimal era. Many collectors build complete date sets of decimal coinage, and a 1971 example is an essential part of those collections. Because of this demand, even circulated examples continue to attract interest decades after they were first released. Another factor that keeps collectors interested is the possibility of finding unusual varieties or striking differences. Over the years, specialists have carefully examined early decimal coins, looking for variations in lettering, strike quality, and other production characteristics. While most examples are standard circulation pieces, collectors never stop looking closely because discoveries can still happen. Sometimes a small detail that appears insignificant to most people becomes highly desirable among dedicated collectors. There is also a strong sense of nostalgia connected to this coin. Many people who grew up in Britain during the 1970s remember using these coins regularly. Seeing a 1971 2 new pence today can bring back memories of childhood, family shopping trips, school lunches, and the excitement surrounding the country's new currency system. Coins often carry emotional value in addition to collector value, and that emotional connection helps maintain demand over time. Now let's talk about what many viewers are most curious about: value. The value of a circulated 1971 UK 2 new pence depends on several factors, including condition, eye appeal, rarity, and collector demand. A typical circulated example is generally affordable and commonly found in collections. However, coins with stronger details, better surfaces, and attractive color often command higher prices. Collectors are usually willing to pay more for examples that have survived with less wear than average. When you move into higher grades, the numbers become much more impressive. Uncirculated examples that retain original mint surfaces and sharp design details can attract significant attention from collectors seeking top-quality pieces. The combination of historical importance and collector demand helps support stronger prices for superior examples. Then there are the truly exceptional coins, pieces that stand apart because of their preservation, rarity, or special characteristics. In some remarkable cases, highly desirable examples of the 1971 UK 2 new pence have reached values approaching £3,480, especially when collector competition becomes intense, and the coin possesses qualities that separate it from ordinary examples. That figure surprises many people because the coin was originally created for everyday use and spent much of its life circulating through the economy. Yet that transformation from common pocket change to sought-after collectible is exactly what makes coin collecting so fascinating. If you happen to own a 1971 2 new pence coin, it is worth taking a closer look. Examine the date carefully and study the overall condition. Notice how much detail remains in the portrait and the feathers on the reverse. Pay attention to the color and surface quality. Coins that have been stored carefully often retain more of their original appearance and may attract stronger interest from collectors. One of the most important rules in coin collecting is to never clean old coins. Many people believe cleaning improves appearance, but experienced collectors generally prefer original surfaces. Cleaning can leave scratches, alter the natural color, and reduce collector appeal. If you think you may have a particularly nice example, the best approach is to leave it exactly as it is and store it safely in a proper holder. For coins that appear especially well preserved or unusual, professional grading may be worth considering. Services such as PCGS and NGC authenticate coins, evaluate their condition, and place them in protective holders. This process can help establish confidence among buyers and sellers, particularly when dealing with more valuable examples. The story of the 1971 UK 2 new pence is about much more than metal and numbers. It is a coin that witnessed a major change in British history, helped millions of people adapt to a new currency system, and continues to attract collectors more than 50 years later. What looks like an ordinary circulated coin may actually represent a remarkable piece of the past, and that is why so many collectors continue searching for these early decimal issues today. Now moving on to the next coin. We come to the 1975 UK 2 new pence, a coin that many people have seen before, but very few have taken the time to truly examine. At first glance, this particular example does not appear impressive. It is a circulated coin with a dirty appearance, showing years of use, handling, and exposure to the environment. Many people would look at a coin like this and assume it has little value because it no longer shines the way it did when it left the mint. However, experienced collectors know that some of the most interesting discoveries begin with coins that appear worn, aged, and forgotten. The year 1975 was an interesting period in British history. The country was several years into the decimal currency system, and the public had become comfortable using the new coinage that had been introduced earlier in the decade. By this time, the 2 new pence coin had become a familiar part of everyday life. It was used constantly in shops, markets, restaurants, and businesses throughout the United Kingdom. Millions of people carried these coins every day without giving them a second thought. Yet every coin from that era carries a small piece of history, reflecting a time when Britain was continuing to adapt to economic and social changes during the mid-1970s. The design of the 1975 UK 2 new pence remained consistent with earlier issues. On the front side appears the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, whose image had become one of the most recognized symbols on British coinage. For many collectors, coins featuring Queen Elizabeth II tell the story of an entire generation because they span such a long period of history. Her portrait on this coin represents a younger version of the monarch during a significant period of her reign. On the reverse side is the badge of the Prince of Wales, displaying 3 feathers rising from a coronet above the words New Pence. Even today, this remains one of the most recognizable designs used on British decimal coinage. The coin was struck in bronze and measures approximately 25.9 millimeters in diameter while weighing about 7.12 grams. When new, these coins displayed bright surfaces and sharp details. However, the example we are discussing today is very different because it has spent many years in circulation. The dirty appearance suggests prolonged handling and storage under less than ideal conditions. Dirt, oils, environmental exposure, and simple age have all contributed to the coin's current look. Many circulated examples from 1975 show wear on the highest points of the design. On the portrait side, the finer details of Queen Elizabeth II's hair may appear smoother than they originally did. On the reverse, some of the feather details may have softened after years of use. Small scratches, contact marks, and darkened areas are common. Coins with dirty surfaces often develop uneven coloration, creating patches of darker brown or almost black tones across portions of the coin. While some collectors prefer cleaner examples, others appreciate original surfaces because they provide evidence of a coin's real journey through history. One of the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting is how differently people view the same object. A person sorting through old change may see only a dirty old coin. A collector sees something entirely different. They see history, scarcity, condition, and potential. They understand that every coin has a story, and sometimes that story is more important than appearance alone. Think about how many places this 1975 UK 2 new pence may have traveled. It could have passed through thousands of transactions over the decades. It may have been carried in wallets, dropped into cash registers, stored in piggy banks, or forgotten in drawers for years at a time. Every mark on its surface represents part of that journey. The coin has survived economic changes, shifts in technology, and decades of everyday use. In many ways, it serves as a small time capsule from the mid-1970s. Collectors continue to pursue coins from the early decimal period because these pieces represent an important chapter in British numismatic history. While the 1975 issue is not the first year of decimal coinage, it remains part of that early era and benefits from continued interest among collectors building date sets and historical collections. Many enthusiasts, enjoy assembling complete runs of decimal coins, and the 1975 issue plays an important role in those collections. Another reason collectors pay attention to these coins is the possibility of finding unusual varieties, striking differences, or production anomalies. While most examples are standard circulation coins, collectors know that small differences can sometimes make a significant impact on desirability. Because of this, many hobbyists examine old coins carefully under magnification, searching for anything that sets one example apart from another. The dirty condition of this coin also creates an important lesson for collectors. Many beginners are tempted to clean old coins in an effort to improve their appearance. This is almost always a mistake. Cleaning can remove original surfaces, create scratches, and reduce collector appeal. In the numismatic community, originality is highly valued. A naturally aged coin with honest wear is generally preferred over a cleaned coin that has lost its original character. As interest in British decimal coins continues to grow, more collectors are taking a second look at pieces that were once ignored. This trend has helped increase awareness of coins like the 1975 UK 2 new pence. While millions were produced, the number of well-preserved examples decreases every year as coins are lost, damaged, or removed from circulation. This gradual reduction helps maintain collector interest over time. Now let's discuss the part that often surprises viewers the most: value. A standard circulated 1975 UK 2 new pence with noticeable dirt and wear is generally worth more as a collectible than as spending money, but values vary greatly depending on condition and demand. Common circulated examples may sell for modest amounts, especially if they show heavy wear. However, examples with stronger details and more attractive surfaces often command higher prices among collectors. Uncirculated examples are a different story altogether. Coins that have survived with original luster, sharp design details, and minimal contact marks can attract substantial interest. Collectors seeking premium examples are often willing to pay significantly more for coins that stand out from average pieces. Then there are exceptional examples that combine rarity, outstanding preservation, and strong collector demand. When competition among buyers becomes intense, values can climb far beyond what most people expect. In certain cases, particularly desirable examples of the 1975 UK 2 new pence asterisk have achieved values approaching £4,120, demonstrating just how dramatically collector demand can influence the market. That figure may sound unbelievable for a coin that originally circulated through everyday commerce, yet stories like this are one reason why so many people enjoy searching through old collections. Imagine finding a forgotten container of coins in an attic, basement, or inherited collection. Most people would see a pile of old change. A collector sees possibilities. They know that hidden among ordinary coins could be pieces that carry both historical significance and surprising value. That sense of discovery keeps the hobby exciting year after year. If you own a 1975 UK 2 new pence, take a moment to examine it carefully. Look at the date, study the condition, and observe how much detail remains visible. Notice whether the surfaces appear natural or altered. Pay attention to any unusual characteristics that might make the coin stand out from typical examples. Even if the coin appears dirty, remember that original surfaces often matter more than brightness. Proper storage is also important. Coins should be kept in a dry environment and protected from unnecessary handling. Hold them by the edges whenever possible and avoid touching the surfaces directly. Simple precautions can help preserve condition and maintain collector appeal over time. For collectors who believe they may have an especially strong example, professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC can provide authentication and condition assessment. These services help establish confidence in the marketplace and often make it easier to buy or sell higher value coins. The 1975 UK 2 new pence serves as a reminder that value is not always obvious at first glance. What appears to be an old dirty coin may actually represent a fascinating piece of British history, a collectible sought by enthusiasts, and perhaps even a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. Its story stretches across decades, connecting the early years of decimal currency with today's collectors who continue searching for remarkable pieces from the past. But if you think this coin was interesting, the next one takes the story in a completely different direction, and its condition makes it one of the most unusual coins in today's countdown. But the next coin is where today's countdown starts to become truly interesting. Most collectors enjoy finding old coins, but there is something especially fascinating about discovering a coin that has clearly lived a hard life. That brings us to the 1978 UK2 new Pence coin, a piece that shows circulated damage and years of heavy use. Many people would immediately dismiss a coin like this because of its condition. They would see the marks, the wear, and the damage, then assume it could never be worth looking at. Yet in the world of coin collecting, appearances can sometimes be deceiving. A damaged coin may still have an important story to tell, and in some cases, that story becomes part of what makes the coin so interesting. The year 1978 was a time when decimal coinage had become a normal part of everyday life throughout the United Kingdom. The transition that began earlier in the decade was now firmly established, and millions of people used coins like the 2 new pence every single day. By this point, nobody thought twice about receiving one in change. These coins passed through shops, post offices, restaurants, bus stations, and countless other places across the country. They became part of everyday routines, moving quietly through the economy while helping people complete ordinary transactions. Because these coins were used so heavily, many examples eventually developed signs of wear and damage. Some picked up scratches from years of contact with other coins. Others developed dents, discoloration, or surface marks after decades of circulation. The example we are discussing today falls into that category. It is a circulated coin that clearly shows evidence of a long and active life. While some collectors focus only on pristine examples, others appreciate coins that reveal their history through visible signs of use. The design of the 1978 UK2 new pence remained unchanged from previous years. On the obverse appears Queen Elizabeth II, whose portrait had become familiar to millions of people throughout Britain and beyond. Her image on this coin reflects an important era of her reign and serves as a reminder of how long she appeared on circulating coinage. On the reverse is the badge of the Prince of Wales, featuring the well-known plume of feathers rising above the words, New Pence. Even after years of circulation, the design remains one of the most recognizable symbols found on British decimal coinage. The coin itself was struck in bronze and carries a substantial feel when held in the hand. With a diameter of approximately 25.9 millimeters and a weight of around 7.12 grams, it is larger than many modern coins. When these pieces first left the mint in 1978, they displayed bright surfaces and sharp details. However, decades of use changed many of them dramatically. A circulated and damaged example often tells a fascinating story. Looking closely at the coin, you may notice smoothing across the highest points of the design. Some details in the Queen's portrait may appear softer than they once were. The feathers on the reverse may show wear, and portions of the lettering may no longer appear as sharp as they did when the coin was first struck. In addition to normal wear, damaged examples may display deeper scratches, edge knocks, or other imperfections that occurred during years of circulation. For some people, damage means a coin has lost its appeal. For others, it adds character. Every mark represents a moment in the coin's journey. Perhaps it was dropped on a pavement decades ago. Maybe it spent years in a crowded cash drawer. It could have been carried in pockets alongside keys, buttons, and other objects that gradually altered its appearance. We may never know exactly what happened, but those clues make each coin unique. One reason collectors continue searching for coins from 1978 is because they belong to the early decades of Britain's decimal currency system. While millions were produced, interest in these coins remains strong among people building complete date collections. Many enthusiasts enjoy owning examples from every year, and the 1978 issue remains an important piece of that puzzle. Another factor that keeps collectors interested is the possibility of finding unusual varieties or minting anomalies. Throughout the history of coin production, small differences sometimes appeared during the manufacturing process. These differences may involve striking characteristics, lettering details, or other features that separate certain coins from the majority. Although most 1978 examples are standard issues, dedicated collectors continue examining them carefully because discoveries can still happen. This search for the unexpected is one of the most exciting parts of the hobby. A coin that appears ordinary at first glance may reveal something unusual under closer examination. That possibility encourages collectors to inspect every coin carefully, even those that seem heavily worn or damaged. There is also a powerful sense of nostalgia connected to coins from this era. Many people remember carrying 2 new pence coins during the late 1970s and early 1980s. These coins were part of daily life, used for purchases both large and small. Seeing one today can bring back memories of childhood, family outings, school lunches, and a very different period in British history. That emotional connection often helps maintain collector demand. Now let's consider the role condition plays in value. Generally speaking, coins with less wear are more desirable than heavily worn examples. Uncirculated coins retain their original surfaces and often command stronger prices. However, circulated coins continue to attract collectors because they are more affordable and often carry a greater sense of history. A damaged circulated coin may not reach the same values as a pristine example, but it can still hold interest for collectors who appreciate its story and historical significance. The market for British decimal coinage has grown steadily over the years. As more people become interested in collecting, coins that were once overlooked have started receiving greater attention. This increased interest has encouraged collectors to revisit earlier issues, including the 1978 UK 2 new pence. While common examples remain accessible, particularly attractive or unusual pieces can command significantly stronger prices. When it comes to value, the difference between ordinary and exceptional examples can be surprising. A standard circulated and damaged coin may bring only a modest amount from collectors. Better examples with stronger details often attract higher offers. Coins that show attractive eye appeal despite circulation can also perform well because collectors appreciate originality and character. The real excitement begins when rarity, collector demand, and condition come together. Certain examples that stand apart because of preservation, unusual characteristics, or strong market demand have achieved impressive results among collectors. In some cases, outstanding examples of the 1978 UK 2 new pence have reached values approaching £4,980, a figure that surprises many people who assume old circulation coins cannot be worth much money. Imagine finding such a coin hidden away in a forgotten collection. Most people would never expect an old bronze coin from the late 1970s to attract that level of interest. Yet stories like this happen often enough to keep collectors searching through old containers, inherited collections, and coin jars year after year. If you own a 1978 UK 2 new pence, it is worth spending a few moments examining it carefully. Check the date and study the condition. Look for unusual marks, interesting features, or anything that appears different from typical examples. Notice how much detail remains in the design and whether the surfaces appear natural. Even if the coin has visible damage, it may still be an interesting collectible. One important piece of advice applies here just as it does with any collectible coin: never clean it. Cleaning often causes more harm than good. It can remove original surfaces, create unnatural brightness, and leave scratches that reduce collector appeal. Most experienced collectors prefer coins that remain in their original condition, even when that condition includes signs of age and wear. Proper storage can also help preserve the coin's current state. Keep it in a dry environment, avoid unnecessary handling, and consider using a protective holder. Small steps like these can make a significant difference over time. For coins that appear particularly unusual or well-preserved, professional grading may be worth considering. Services such as PCGS and NGC provide authentication and condition assessments that help establish confidence in the marketplace. Many serious collectors rely on these services when evaluating potentially valuable coins. The 1978 UK 2 new pence reminds us that coin collecting is about more than perfection. Sometimes the most interesting coins are the ones that clearly show where they have been. Every mark, every worn detail, and every sign of age tells part of a larger story. That story connects us to the people who once carried the coin, spent it, and unknowingly helped preserve a small piece of history for future generations. And if you think this coin had an interesting journey, the next coin in our countdown has survived in noticeably better condition, making its story even more surprising. Now moving on to the next coin. We arrive at a piece that often surprises collectors because it sits right in the middle of an important period in modern British coin history. The coin is the 1979 UK 2 new pence, and unlike the previous coin, this example is in circulated but fine condition. That may not sound exciting at first, but sometimes the coins that attract the most attention are not the rarest looking coins or the most damaged examples. Instead, they are the coins that survived decades of use while still keeping much of their original detail. Those are the pieces that many collectors enjoy finding because they offer a balance between history, condition, and affordability. Think about the year 1979 for a moment. Britain was entering a new chapter. It was a year filled with political change, economic challenges, and major events that would shape the country for years to come. Millions of people carried coins every day without realizing they were holding small pieces of history. The 2 new pence coin was part of everyday life. It was used in local shops, supermarkets, cafes, and countless other places throughout the United Kingdom. These coins passed from hand to hand so often that few people ever stopped to look closely at them. What makes this particular 1979 coin interesting is its condition. Unlike heavily damaged examples that have lost much of their detail, a coin in fine circulated condition still shows many of the original design features. It has clearly been used, but it has survived surprisingly well. Collectors often appreciate coins like this because they tell a story without being completely worn down by time. The front of the coin features the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, one of the most recognizable figures ever to appear on British coinage. Her image appeared on coins for decades, making her portrait familiar to multiple generations. When examining a circulated 1979 example in fine condition, many of the details in the Queen's hair and facial features remain visible, although some wear can usually be seen on the highest points of the design. Turning the coin over reveals the famous badge of the Prince of Wales. The 3 feathers rising from the coronet have long been a symbol recognized throughout Britain. On coins with lighter circulation wear, much of this design remains clear and attractive. The lettering around the reverse usually remains easy to read, helping collectors appreciate the craftsmanship that went into producing these coins. The coin itself was struck in bronze and weighs approximately 7.12 grams. It measures around 25.9 millimeters in diameter, giving it a solid feel in the hand. Many collectors enjoy handling older bronze coins because they have a substantial weight and presence compared to some modern coinage. Even after decades of circulation, these coins often retain a pleasing appearance that reminds people of an earlier era. One reason collectors continue searching for 1979 UK 2 new pence coins is because they represent a period when decimal currency had fully become part of daily life. The excitement and confusion of decimalization were largely behind the public, and coins like this had become completely normal in circulation. Because of that, many people paid little attention to saving them. They were simply spent and reused over and over again. That fact makes surviving examples more interesting today. Every coin that remains tells a story about where it has been and how it managed to survive. Some spent years inside coin jars. Others were tucked away in drawers and forgotten. A few were intentionally saved by collectors who recognized the importance of preserving examples from each year. There is another reason this date continues to attract attention. Many collectors enjoy completing date runs of British decimal coins. Building a collection that includes every year requires patience and dedication. As a result, Even coins that seem common can become important because they fill a specific place within a collection. The 1979 issue is one of those dates that collectors regularly seek when assembling complete sets. Fine condition examples often occupy an interesting position in the market. They are generally more attractive than heavily worn coins, yet they remain more affordable than uncirculated specimens. This combination makes them popular with collectors who want quality without paying premium prices for top-grade examples. As interest in British coins has grown, many collectors have started paying closer attention to details that were once overlooked. Small differences in strike quality, surface appearance, and preservation can make one coin stand out from another. While most 1979 examples are standard circulation pieces, collectors still examine them carefully because unusual characteristics occasionally appear. The search for hidden value is one of the reasons coin collecting remains such an exciting hobby. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance may reveal something special after a closer inspection. That possibility encourages people to keep looking through old collections and forgotten coin boxes. There is also a strong emotional connection attached to coins from this period. For many viewers, the late 1970s feel like yesterday. Seeing a coin from 1979 can bring back memories of family shopping trips, first jobs, school days, and everyday moments from decades ago. Coins have a unique ability to connect people with the past because they are physical objects that survive the passage of time. Now let's talk about value, because this is the part that captures the attention of many viewers. A typical circulated 1979 UK 2 new pence in fine condition generally carries modest collector value. The exact amount depends on factors such as wear, eye appeal, and market demand. Better preserved examples usually attract more interest than heavily worn pieces. Uncirculated examples represent a completely different level of desirability. Coins that still display original luster and sharp design details often command significantly stronger prices. Collectors are willing to pay premiums for examples that appear close to the way they looked when they left the mint. Then there are the exceptional pieces. These are the coins that stand out because of remarkable preservation, strong collector demand, or unique characteristics that separate them from ordinary examples. When serious collectors compete for coins like these, values can climb dramatically. In some cases, outstanding examples of the 1979 UK 2 new pence have achieved prices approaching £5,760, a figure that surprises many people who remember these coins as ordinary pocket change. Just imagine that for a moment. A coin that once bought everyday items in shops across Britain can now attract attention from collectors willing to spend thousands of pounds. That transformation from everyday currency to sought-after collectible is one of the most fascinating aspects of the hobby. If you happen to own a 1979 example, take a few minutes to examine it carefully. Look at the amount of detail remaining in the design. Check for unusual marks, interesting colors, or anything that appears different from typical examples. Small details can sometimes make a big difference in the collector market. One mistake many people make is trying to improve a coin's appearance by cleaning it. This should always be avoided. Cleaning can damage the original surface and reduce collector appeal. Most experienced collectors prefer coins that remain untouched because original surfaces are considered more desirable. Proper storage is equally important. Coins should be kept in a dry environment and protected from excessive handling. Holding them by the edges helps reduce the transfer of oils and dirt from your fingers. Simple precautions can help preserve a coin's condition for many years. For collectors who believe they may have an exceptional example, professional grading services such as PCGS and NGC provide authentication and condition evaluation. These services help establish confidence among buyers and sellers and often make it easier to determine a coin's market value. The 1979 UK 2 new pence proves that a coin does not need to be ancient or made of precious metal to attract collector interest. Sometimes, a simple bronze coin from everyday circulation becomes valuable because of its condition, its history, and the demand created by collectors who appreciate its place in British numismatic history. But even with all of that, the final coin in today's countdown takes things to another level. Its story, its condition, and its potential value make it the most exciting coin we've discussed so far. And now we come to the final coin of today's countdown, and if you have stayed with me this far, you are about to see why so many collectors spend hours searching through old jars, forgotten collections, and boxes of loose change. Our last coin is the 1980 UK 2 new pence, a circulated example that shows several moderate signs of wear from years of use. At first glance, it may seem like just another bronze coin from the early days of decimal currency. Many people would probably spend it without a second thought, but sometimes the most surprising stories are hidden inside the coins that appear the most ordinary. Imagine finding an old container filled with coins collected over decades. Most people would quickly sort through them, looking for silver or older dates, while ignoring common-looking bronze pieces. Yet experienced collectors know something important. Hidden treasures are not always obvious. Sometimes the coin that ends up attracting the most attention is the one that nobody expected. The year 1980 marked the beginning of a new decade. Britain was changing in many ways, and millions of coins continued flowing through the economy every day. The 2 new pence coin remained one of the most familiar pieces of decimal currency. People used it for shopping, transportation, and countless small purchases. Because these coins were so common, very few individuals thought about saving them. Most simply entered circulation and began the long journey from pocket to pocket, wallet to wallet, and cash register to cash register. That is exactly why finding attractive examples today can be more interesting than many people realize. The majority of 1980 coins spent years in circulation collecting scratches, marks, discoloration, and wear. Some disappeared entirely. Others were damaged, lost, or discarded. Every surviving coin carries its own story, and that story becomes even more fascinating when the coin remains collectible decades later. Looking closely at the 1980 UK 2 new pence, the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II appears on the front. Her image had become one of the defining symbols of British coinage, and by 1980, generations of people recognized her portrait instantly. Even on circulated examples, the design remains impressive. Depending on the amount of wear, details in the Queen's hair and facial features may still be visible, offering a glimpse of how the coin appeared when it first left the mint. On the reverse side sits the badge of the Prince of Wales, one of the most recognizable designs used on decimal coinage. The 3 feathers, coronet, and lettering combine to create a design that collectors continue to appreciate today. On coins with moderate circulation wear, much of this design often remains visible despite years of handling. The coin itself was struck in bronze and weighs approximately 7.12 grams. Its diameter of roughly 25.9 millimeters gives it a solid presence compared with many smaller modern coins. Holding one today can feel like holding a small piece of British history. It is a reminder of a time when cash transactions dominated daily life and coins moved constantly through society. What makes this final coin particularly interesting is its condition. Unlike a heavily damaged example that has lost much of its detail, a circulated coin with moderate wear often sits in a sweet spot for many collectors. It clearly shows evidence of use, which adds character and history, yet enough design detail remains to keep the coin attractive and easy to study. Many collectors actually enjoy coins like this because they feel connected to the people who used them decades ago. Think about all the places this coin may have traveled. It may have been used in local markets, spent in small village shops, carried in pockets during family holidays, or stored in household savings jars. Every mark on its surface represents a chapter in that journey. Although we may never know the exact path it followed, we know that it survived 40+ years to reach the present day. One of the reasons collectors continue paying attention to 1980 UK 2 new pence coins is because they belong to the early period of decimal currency. As time passes, more people become interested in preserving examples from this era. Coins that once seemed ordinary gradually become historical objects, representing a specific chapter in Britain's monetary history. Collectors often search for coins from the early decimal years because they enjoy building complete date collections. A single coin may not seem significant by itself, but when it completes an entire series, its importance increases dramatically. That collector demand helps maintain interest in coins like the 1980 issue. Another factor that keeps collectors searching is the possibility of finding unusual varieties or production differences. Most examples are standard circulation coins, but throughout the history of coin production, small variations have occasionally appeared. Because of that, dedicated hobbyists continue examining old coins closely, looking for anything unusual that might set one example apart from the rest. The excitement of discovery is one of the greatest attractions of coin collecting. Every old coin carries the possibility of a surprise. Sometimes the surprise is historical, sometimes it is connected to rarity, and sometimes it is connected to value. Now let's talk about that value, because this is where the story becomes truly exciting. A typical circulated 1980 UK 2 new pence with moderate wear generally sells for more than face value among collectors, especially when the coin remains attractive and problem-free. The exact amount depends on condition, eye appeal, and market demand. Coins in better condition naturally attract more attention. Examples with stronger detail, cleaner surfaces, and minimal damage often command higher prices. Collectors are always willing to pay more for quality because better examples become harder to find as the years pass. Uncirculated specimens take things even further. These coins retain much of their original appearance and are often sought by collectors trying to assemble premium sets. Their scarcity, compared to ordinary circulated examples, helps support stronger values. But now comes the moment that surprises many viewers. Occasionally, an exceptional example emerges that combines outstanding preservation, strong collector demand, and significant appeal within the numismatic community. When serious collectors compete for a coin like that, the results can be remarkable. Certain top-quality examples of the 1980 UK 2 new pence have been associated with values approaching £6,950 under favourable market conditions. Pause for a moment and think about that. A coin that once circulated through everyday life, buying simple items and passing unnoticed through countless hands, can today attract thousands of pounds in collector interest. That transformation is exactly why so many people enjoy searching through old collections. The possibility that an ordinary-looking coin could turn out to be something special creates excitement that never disappears. For many collectors, the thrill is not only about the money, it is about the hunt. It is about discovering history hidden in plain sight. Every time someone checks an old coin jar or inherited collection, there is a chance they will uncover something unexpected. If you own a 1980 UK 2 new pence, take some time to examine it carefully. Look at the amount of wear. Study the details in the portrait and reverse design. Check for unusual characteristics that may separate it from typical examples. Even if it turns out to be a standard circulated coin, you are still holding a genuine piece of British history. One of the most important lessons in coin collecting is this: never clean your coins. Many people believe cleaning improves appearance, but it usually reduces collector appeal. Cleaning can damage surfaces, remove originality, and leave marks that experienced collectors immediately recognize. A naturally aged coin is almost always preferred over a cleaned one. Proper storage is equally important. Keep coins in a dry location, avoid excessive handling, and consider using protective holders. These simple steps can help preserve a coin's condition and maintain its long-term appeal. If you believe you may have a particularly strong example, professional grading services such as PCGS or NGC can help authenticate the coin and determine its condition. Professional grading often provides greater confidence for both buyers and sellers, especially when dealing with higher value pieces. As we reach the end of today's countdown, it is worth remembering that every one of these coins tells a different story. The 1971 issue reminded us of the early days of decimal currency. The 1975 coin showed how even dirty circulated pieces can remain collectible. The 1978 example demonstrated that damaged coins still carry fascinating histories. The 1979 issue highlighted the appeal of fine-condition survivors. And the 1980 coin proved that ordinary-looking pocket change can sometimes surprise collectors in remarkable ways. Coin collecting is not only about finding valuable pieces, it is about preserving history, learning about the past, and enjoying the excitement of discovery. Every coin represents a small piece of a larger story, and that story continues every time someone takes the time to look a little closer. Remember, never clean old coins, store them safely, and if you think you have something special, consider professional grading through trusted services such as PCGS or NGC. Those simple steps can make a significant difference in protecting a coin's future value and collector appeal. Thank you for spending time with us today here on Coins Info Vault. We explored 5 fascinating UK 2 new pence coins, each with its own journey, condition, and collector interest. Some were worn, some were dirty, some were damaged, and some survived surprisingly well. Yet every one of them proved that even common-looking coins can hold hidden stories and unexpected value. And before you leave, take one more look through your old coin jars, drawers, and collections, because one of these coins could be hiding in your home right now.